Well, good morning, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome in truly from across the continent today for another exciting Exploring by the Seat of Your Pants broadcast. There's a lot of familiar faces in the crowd, but there's a few newbies too. So if you are new to us, we are all about bringing conservation, adventure, and science into classrooms around the world. And you're catching us on a really exciting day because we are going back with one of my all-time favorite topics. Now, on this program, as you know, we get to bring in the coolest scientists and explorers on planet Earth every single day. We do like 40, 50 programs every month. It's a ton of fun. All our things are on YouTube. You can check out like 3,600 past broadcasts, lots to explore and discover. But our signature, our sort of raison d'etre, our first kind of program that we ever sort of specialized in was in storm chasing, because the people that get to do meteorology and forecast and go chase active weather around the world, whether it's tornadoes or hurricanes, wildfires, what have you, have the coolest job on planet Earth. Really, there's very few things that you could even say. Maybe like astronaut, moonwalker, dancing or otherwise. That is as cool a job as a meteorologist out live in the field. And so I'm so thrilled today to join the over 600 of you from coast to coast to coast. Join me in welcoming in Jaclyn Whittal, who is a meteorologist extraordinaire with the Weather Network. She is a veteran of Storm Hunters with our friends George Crunas, Mark Robinson. We've had the entire Storm Hunters team on in our past. And I'm so thrilled to be able to welcome you to the program today, Jaclyn. So thank you for taking time out of your busy schedule to join us.
Thank you so much. I am thrilled to be here. And I would say, yeah, we do have a pretty cool job, but maybe astronaut might be my job. Just saying.
You got more people joining you than our last astronaut. So by our audience's perspective, I think you're killing it. I know you've got a lot to share with us. So if you want to bring up your presentation and dive in, showcase some of your epic adventures, that would be awesome. And I will just bring up your website and amazing Instagram page. If people want to check that out at the end of the broadcast, I'll be linking them to that as well. Jaclyn can't possibly tell her epic life story in one like 25-minute show. So there's a little more you can discover there when we're done.
Well, I will do my best to do it here. Oh, did that work? That worked.
You are in, and when you get the presentation up full, I will pop that up and we will be golden.
How's that look, Jesse?
That looks amazing. If you just want to press that little hide for the sharing your screen thing on the bottom,
Sure can. Yep. Okay, so.
Nope, it got rid of it for some reason. It did exactly what I said it was going to do. See, this is the fun. Something should go a little wrong in a video program. Otherwise, it's not interesting.
Okay, let's see here.
Oh, dear.
Did that work?
No, so come out of it. Oh, now you're good. Yep, you're good. Just drag that little banner off the screen. Otherwise, it'll be there. You can just pull him to the corner somewhere.
Oh,
there
I see.
You go.
Okay,
it wants to disappear.
That should be good.
You're perfect. Sorry for the trouble. There you are.
No problem. Okay, well, I guess I'll get going. First of all, thank to everyone. I think over 600 of you are joining to talk about weather. And I'm a meteorologist. I work nationally here in Canada, but as Jesse mentioned, I also host a storm chasing television show, which you can actually check out on Amazon Prime if you live in the States, which many of you do, and in Canada. And I've been doing this for about 14 years. This is my second job. My first job, I was a performer, a professional singer, and I did Broadway musicals and things like that all around the world. So here's a saying that I like to always open with. Anything you've ever wanted is on the other side of fear. What I mean by that is, well, yeah, I'm chasing tornadoes. I'm out covering hurricanes. That can be pretty scary stuff. But more what I mean is, if you ever fear something, maybe that's the reason to give it a try, right? And get out of our comfort zone and do things like this, but do things like anything, whether it's performing music or chasing storms or anything in the science realm. Take a risk. So I take a lot of risks. And you can see here, that's me out in the field chasing all kinds of different weather events, including tornadoes, which of course our friends in the US know all too well about. I'm just going to play a quick video to show you what my job in the studio looks like, because I'm not always out in the field.
Severe weather on both sides of the border. Yesterday, all eyes on Manitoba and Saskatchewan, but today we're watching the upper Midwest of the US. I'm meteorologist Jaclyn Whittal. Let's just show you kind of the residual bit of activity over the last 3 hours, working its way through Minnesota and Wisconsin. This is the cluster of storms and the energy that did work its way along the international border. And by the way, when it did, let's show you some archived radar data. This here, Alita, Saskatchewan, this actually spawned a tornado. So it's a confirmed.
So I'm going to stop it there because basically we've all seen people on television and now in many cases on our smartphones, because a lot of people maybe don't have television. So they're looking at severe weather warnings and watching radar and watching videos that I produce about weather. So now my job is more on the digital space, like we're streaming right now, but I'm still out in the field all the time. And I actually broadcast right from my home here in British Columbia, which is where I live, back to our headquarters at the Weather Network in Canada in Toronto. So when I'm not in the studio broadcasting, I am out in the field. And yes, I chase tornadoes, chased several of them, countless over the years. And of course, our friends in the United States know about a very important place in the US called Tornado Alley. So every May, except this May, because I'm headed off to another expedition, I go down to Tornado Alley and I chase storms. And you might ask, well, why? Because that allows me to communicate to people like you who are at home, maybe watching the storms on their phone. Maybe you're taking shelter. Maybe you're with your parents and you know, you're at your place. Maybe you're in your backyard and you need to take shelter. That's my job, to get those alerts out to you in a broadcast way. So we go to Tornado Alley. We look at thunderstorms like this, and a thunderstorm is a massive event going on in our atmosphere. For the Americans, they can get up to 60,000 feet tall in the atmosphere. We call them a cumulonimbus cloud, and you can see they produce rain, hail. But I want to draw your attention to where it says tornado. Look how small the tornado is in relationship to the entire storm. So it's a very small part of a thunderstorm, and they're not easy to see out in the field. But once in a while, the best kind we see are the ones that are over an open field and they're not doing any damage to any homes or any people. And they're beautiful to see. I'll show you this one, which was in Kansas.
Right before the cops cut. Meteorologist Jaclyn Whittal for the web. There's our tornado live right now for you. Yeah, beautiful lightning around it. This thing has been up and down. Apparently, I'm just speaking to a truck driver here. He says that it's been up and down a few times. And do you mind speaking with us?
No.
How many tornadoes have you seen, sir?
I've seen 8. I've been driving 12 years.
And how does this one, how does this measure up to some that you've seen?
This one's really cool because it's come up and down 3 different times now.
I want to draw your attention to the ground where you see the grass. That's what we call debris, a debris cloud. So that could be dirt and things that are being connected to the tornado. And you actually might say, well, it doesn't look like a tornado, Jaclyn, because it's not touching the ground. But what we are not seeing is the full length of the condensation cloud. So it's actually in contact with the ground, and you can see the dust and debris at the bottom of the screen. And that is how we know that that indeed was a tornado. Now I take you to the most craziest chase day I've ever had, where this one actually produced 2 tornadoes on the same storm. That's the only time I've ever seen that in my life. If you've ever seen George Karunas, he's a very good friend of mine. He's next to me right now. And we were witnessing this together in Dodge City, Kansas. Take a look.
Neola, just north of in Kansas. Yeah, there's 2 tornadoes on that. There are 2 tornadoes on this right now.
Oh, there is. There's a second one.
There's a second tornado.
Two on the ground at the same time.
That's a twin tornado.
You can hear the excitement in our voice because that's a very rare event. And so you can see the one off to the right, it was really skinny. And then the bigger tornado, which by the way, stayed on the ground on and off for about an hour. And a good thing, that particular tornado did not do much in the way of damage. Now let's talk to our Canadians where we live. We get tornadoes here in Canada too, in case you didn't know. On average, we get about 62 of them a year. And you can see Saskatchewan is actually the place that we get the most. And Alberta is second. I also, chase usually out in the field with a lot of boys. So for the girls watching, we can do anything that guys can do, right? This is me up in the Arctic, and that's me with same guy, George Karunas, to my left. And, sometimes as a girl, you might feel like, oh, that's a guy's thing to do. I'm here to tell you that I have lots of female chase friends that do this, and it's becoming more and more normal that a lot of women are doing this as well. So we got to stick together as girls out in the field doing these kind of cool things. Storm Hunters, there's our show down to the bottom right of my screen. That's Mark Robinson to my left and George Karunas to my right. But probably my favorite type of weather to chase are hurricanes. And I say favorite because they are such a massive event. They are the ultimate storm over the ocean. And of course, tornadoes form very differently than hurricanes. Hurricanes form over ocean water, warm ocean water that has to be 26 degrees Celsius or 81 degrees, I think, Fahrenheit. And you can see the tracks. Every red line you see here is a hurricane that has happened in history across the Atlantic Ocean, the Gulf of Mexico, and the Pacific. And the reason I really enjoy covering a hurricane is the forecasting. When we're looking at weather models, we can look at these things sometimes 7 to 10 days in advance coming out of the Atlantic Ocean and watch the changes and really learn a lot about how these storms are operating. And then when they make landfall, well, it can go on for days, and there's so much preparation for people. Of course, the Americans would know evacuation routes and making sure your houses are boarded up and making sure you properly evacuate if you've been asked. This was well, actually turned out to be the hurricane that had the most moisture, the most rainfall in any other tropical storm in history. It was Hurricane Harvey in 2017. Have a look.
All right, Port Lavaca, Texas, now being referred to as ground zero, potentially this evening and into Saturday morning as Harvey makes landfall as now the first major hurricane in 12 years for the U.S. Well, from the beginning, I've been watching this storm. This was, one of those things we didn't exactly know what it was going to end up being remembered by. I think I know what it's going to be remembered by: the rain, the flooding. So we left Victoria, Texas, and we're on our way to Houston. Why? Because the greatest flooding threat is in that area. We're under a tornado warning just as we pulled in, so I got to get to shelter inside the hotel. Where I'm standing is flooded as far as the eye can see. You know that it's not safe to be in the attic of your home. They want you on the roof. I've heard local officials actually telling people to be on the roof. Are you prepared to do that? You can see that the water levels are halfway up the street signs. Look at how high that water is right now. This is the whole city. Everywhere is underwater. It is like nothing I've ever seen before. I don't know how long this is going to go on for. I don't know how long they're going to be cleaning up for.
I'm going to stop it right there. So you can obviously see that the flooding was the main story from that hurricane. It actually dropped, I think it was about 62 inches of rainfall, which is more than any other hurricane that has ever done that in history, and now has been linked to climate change. And that we know that that storm stalled because of climate change, because of our warming in certain parts of the entire Earth, but our jet stream pattern at that time stalled. So what happened was the hurricane just sat over the same area for several days and dropped that rainfall. In millimeters, by the way, for the Canadians, I think that's about 1,300 millimeters of rainfall. So kind of hard to imagine how much rain that is, but it flooded the city of Houston. This was another hurricane we chased. I just want to show you the power of the winds. So at the beginning of that video, you actually couldn't even see. It looked almost just like fog. That was actually the rain and wind going so fast. And this was Hurricane Michael in Panama City, Florida. I believe that was 2018. Oh, I might be wrong on that date. Sorry. Sorry, sounded Canadian there. But we are always in a parking garage. When we're covering a hurricane as storm chasers, the reason we go into a parking garage, and you can see that view right there is a parking garage, is because it's a very solid structure. Number one, it's made out of solid concrete. And we go on the third or fourth or fifth level sometimes to make sure we get above the storm surge threat. The storm surge, for folks that don't know, that's when the momentum of the hurricane over the ocean piles up the water and the water just pushes on shore for several hours. So it's not like a tsunami with an earthquake, which is an abrupt wave. This is over time, water coming on the coast, and often can have, well, anywhere from sometimes 10 to 25 feet of storm surge threat. And that is the biggest cause of damage when it comes to a hurricane. So we go into the parking garage to be able to document the storm safely, and we're above that storm surge risk in case the water comes up. Here, have a look at these winds. Oh, sorry. Let me try that again. I will try that again. Take two. There. So you can see the power of these winds. In fact, these winds were up around 250 kilometers an hour, or about 160 miles per hour. Hurricane Michael was a Category 5 hurricane. If anyone's familiar with the Saffir-Simpson scale, that is how we measure our hurricanes in terms of their strength. So the strongest hurricane that I've ever chased and the strongest on the scale. I want to talk a little bit about, before I end here, because I think I have about 5-ish more minutes, the difference between weather and climate. And the reason I talk about climate change is because all of these severe weather events that I chase and that I cover seem to be getting worse. And I've been doing this about 14 years, and I had to look at things and think, well, is this just me? No, it's not just me. Our climate is changing, as we know, from emissions and from global warming. And what that is doing is it's making a big impact on our weather events. And I'm sure all of us have had, whether it be a wildfire or a flooding event, or maybe a strong hurricane that maybe has made landfall where you live. You might say, boy, that seemed more strong than I ever remember. Or maybe your parents have said that kind of thing. So a lot of people say the word weather and they say the word climate, and they interchange them. They're two very different things. Climate is what you expect. Weather is what you get. Okay, that's the best way to think about it. So weather is, if I open my blinds past my laptop here, I look outside, I'm looking at the weather. It's happening right now. It's partly cloudy. It's around 20 degrees Celsius here in BC. Climate is when we look at weather over a long period of time. So basically, it describes a specific area over a long period of time, and we are seeing those changes across the globe. You've probably heard about this, but last summer, globally, so if we took all the temperatures around the entire globe and averaged them out, we actually broke all-time heat records. You can see not once, not twice, but 3 times in July last summer. So that's showing for the American, sorry, this is in Celsius, 17.23 degrees Celsius on July 6th. That is an average temperature of the whole globe. That's alarming, right? Well, we know that climate change is leading to, well, last year in Canada, the worst wildfire season we have ever seen. That's my Weather Network truck in the town I live in 2021, when I too was on evacuation alert for a devastating wildfire. This is last year. This is a time lapse, so it's sped up. In Kelowna, British Columbia, where a devastating wildfire took out many, many homes, unfortunately, and that's about a half hour from where I live. So yeah, fires are happening more. We know that climate change is being attributed to, of course, our melting ice cap and our glaciers worldwide. We know that ocean temperatures are warming as a result of human-caused global warming, of course, emissions that we're emitting into the atmosphere. World flooding events. And the consequences of this, of course, are intense droughts, water scarcity, severe fires, rising sea levels, flooding, melting polar ice, catastrophic storms, and declining biodiversity. But we can't just blame everything on climate change. Some things are not correlated to climate change, like tornadoes and hurricanes. We know that Hurricane Harvey was the one I showed you in Texas, where there was all that rainfall. But not every hurricane, and certainly not every tornado event, can be blamed on climate change. We have to look at data over a really long time. But a couple of the things we do feel more confident, or scientists, climatologists feel more confident linking to climate change, is indeed severe droughts, extreme precipitation events, so stalled storms that are flooding areas, coastal flooding with sea level rise. So if you live in areas that are very low lying, like particular areas of Louisiana or Florida, you know that coastal flooding is something that people talk about. And of course, heat waves. So that's basically, I guess that comes to the end of my presentation, Jesse. And I tried to do it right in 20 minutes. So I think, should I stop sharing my screen now?
Yeah, feel free to stop sharing. That was incredibly fast. You're actually well under 20 minutes because you're like me, a fast talker, which is great. It means we have an epic amount of time for a fantastic Q&A. So you should be back where you can see the two of us again. I've given you this Hawaiian, nice, beautiful day backdrop, sort of counteract those scary tornadoes and hurricanes and stuff. But we're going to dive in with a Q&A on everything that you shared and more. I'm so excited to lead in with this. YouTubers, please feel free to share as many questions as you'd like. There's so many of you there. But I'm going to start in Salem, Massachusetts with our Phoenix school friends. If you guys want to kick us off and come on up in the world's coolest classroom, I'll come to you first, and we'll go down the line for absolutely everyone. Hey, Phoenix school folks, welcome in.
Just name.
Yep.
I'm Audrey. I'm in 7th grade. And have you ever gotten like injured or like something happened? Since obviously it's pretty dangerous, but like the wind and the rain going so fast, has it ever hurt you?
That's a really great question, Audrey. Thank you for that. Yes, I have actually. There was that one shot I showed you in the parking garage with the winds blowing across in the rain, and you could see all the parking spots. Right then during Hurricane Michael, I left the parking garage momentarily to go get a couple shots, and I opened a glass door to get into kind of where the stairways would be, and I was going into the hotel area where this parking garage was attached to, and I went to shut the door, and the door blew off. And luckily the glass did not break. I don't know how it didn't, but the door blew off. In that same storm, Jesse's like, wow, it was dangerous. And these things do happen. On that same storm, I was running across the parking garage to go meet my storm chase partner, Mark Robinson. And I got blown right off my feet. And I literally winds picked me right off my feet, and I fell and I hurt my hip, and I did get hurt. I was okay, but yeah, that's happened. And we've had broken windshields while chasing tornadoes and things like hail. We've had debris come at our cars. You have to be very careful out there. And I will say to every student who's watching, this sounds all cool, right? And fun. We are all trained meteorologists. We know how to interpret radar. We know how to, cover these events in the most safe way we possibly can.
It's actually, I'm really glad we got that question. You're one of the rare people that's ever been in a situation to get injured. And again, this happens when you're chasing storms. We've talked about this with George Karunas before. But again, highlighting the fact that you've never met a group of people that are more prepared and are really, all things considered, risk averse. Like, you're not going out of your way to put yourselves in positions where you're likely to get injured. And I think that's really, really important. That wind footage, by the way, is absolutely wild. I've never seen anything quite like that. So thank you for sharing that as part of the presentation. Jaclyn, we're going to go to Marilyn, our crew, Ms. Rahim's class. If you guys want to come on in and take us away, you're good to go. Hey, guys.
Hi.
Hi.
Evan and Izzy, they kind of have a dual tornado question for you.
Nice.
Cool.
Have you ever been inside of a tornado?
And?
How many tornadoes have you seen?
Nice.
Okay.
Great questions. Thank you for those questions, guys. Well, I'll start with the first one. No, I've never actually been inside of a tornado, and that's because you really can't go inside of the tornado. So tornadoes can be small or wide. Some can be just the size of, I don't know, maybe a telephone pole, and others can be the size of miles wide. And so for the Canadians, the widest tornado I've ever chased was 4.2 kilometers wide, or 2.8 miles wide. So you'd think, well, why can't you walk right in there and hang out? It's not the same as a hurricane. Those winds are going so fast. In fact, that same tornado that I'm talking about had winds of over 350 kilometers an hour. My conversion on
200 and something.
Thank you. Thanks for jumping in. So there's no way that you could possibly get inside of those winds, because you would get very, very injured. But what I will say to that first question is you can go into the center of a hurricane. And I've done that probably about 3 times. So when the hurricane operates very differently in that there's you've all seen a hurricane where they're swirling and they've got that circle in the center. That circle in the center is known as the eye of the storm. A tornado has kind of an eye, but you can't get in there basically. So with a hurricane, everything's spinning counterclockwise in the northern hemisphere, and the winds are strongest right on the eye wall. So if you imagine the circle where my fingers are, this area, that's the strongest winds of the hurricane. And we always want to try and get in the strongest winds to get the greatest visuals and experience it as a chaser. But as soon as that eye wall moves over where we are and we're in the center of the eye, guess what happens? It goes completely calm. the eye of the hurricane actually doesn't have any rising air. It has sinking air. And what that means is literally it goes from like 250-kilometer-an-hour winds to crickets and frogs hopping around, and it's people out on their bikes. And then all of a sudden, the next side of the eye wall comes in with another 250-kilometer-an-hour winds. So that's pretty incredible. And to finally answer the last question, I have lost count how many tornadoes I've seen. I've seen so many that I just don't even know anymore. Hurricanes, though, I've chased 9.
Wow. Jaclyn, what a fantastic and detailed answer. That was great. And by the way, I want to stress for our audience, I've never had someone on who's so good about doing Fahrenheit to Celsius conversions or miles to kilometers. You've done more than anyone in the history of our program in 3,500 broadcasts. So thank you for that.
Well, I work on Canadian television, but we broadcast to the U.S., and I grew up on the Detroit border. So I'm kind of half and half.
It all comes together.
Right.
I know our older class has to go fairly soon, so Miss Digby's class, we're going to head to Fairfax, Virginia in a minute. And Mr. Shattuck, Miss Fisher, we're coming to you, YouTubers. You guys are getting some great questions, and we have a nice long amount of time for Q&A left, so stay tuned. But Miss Digby's, hi guys, welcome in.
My name's Sarah. So I was wondering, you said you used to be a Broadway actress. Yeah. So what made you want to change careers, and also do you have a degree in meteorology?
Wow, fantastic question. So I grew up, I guess I was 5 years old. I started playing piano, and then I started singing when I was about 12. And I always knew that music was going to be my career. I knew that from a very young age. I performed in musicals in high school, and then I went to university for a Bachelor of Fine Arts in Musical Theater. Although I didn't finish it because I auditioned and got a show when I was about 19 years old. So I went and I took the work, and I never stopped performing for 11 years. The biggest show I probably did in my career was similar to a Broadway level show. If anyone knows the musical Grease, Danny Zuko, Sandy Dombrowski, Grease, the musical, I did the musical in Europe, and I was in Germany for most of that for 4 months, playing the role of Sandy, and I had to do the script, this is the crazy part, in German, and we sang in English. So that was kind of crazy. But I guess I got to the point in my life where I was about 31 years old, and I just wanted to challenge myself academically a bit more. I think I was so focused on the creative side of Jaclyn, which was a wonderful career and lots of great memories. But I released a couple albums, which you can find on YouTube. And I wanted a change. So I wanted to go back to school. So I went to Mississippi State University for a 3-year operational meteorology program. I highly recommend that program. That program is recommended for people that are working in broadcast. And at that point, I had merged. The reason I went into broadcasting was because I thought, hey, I was a stage performer. That will work well for television. I know how to talk and perform. So that's how it started. I didn't know it was going into weather, but I went and got an operational certificate in meteorology. And now I am working on this year my master's degree in climate action leadership.
Amazing. Jaclyn, what a fantastic story. And by the way, how interesting. On this broadcast, we get the chance to hear from a lot of experts, a lot of different disciplines. And I think when I was a kid, I always assumed that people that had amazing careers knew what they wanted to do from when they were 4. I'm one of those people. I'm very lucky to be in exactly what I wanted from a little kid. But George is the only other person that I've run across that started at like 28 or later in something that they ended up being like a world authority on. So both our storm chasers have that as a backdrop. So kids, there you go.
Here's another quick story for anyone that knows Les Stroud, Survivor Man. So Les Stroud and I used to work together before he was Les Stroud Survivor Man and before I was Jaclyn Storm Chaser. He used to record my promotional videos at a show that I used to perform at in Huntsville, Ontario.
Cool.
Funny, right?
That is a small world, and Huntsville is also a great place near Algonquin Park, which our Ontario crew head up there anytime you want it to be. Cool. We're going to take our 2 other live classes. We'll take some from our YouTube friends, and then we'll do a whole second round because we are whipping through these. Ms. Jaclyn, you're an amazing answer. So this is great.
Aw, thanks.
Mr. Shattuck's class, Deep River, we're going to head to you guys, and then Miss Fisher, we're coming to you guys next. 5 6s, Mr. Shattuck's class. Hey.
Do you do multiple broadcasts per day? And if you do, how many on average?
Wow, fantastic question. I do multiple broadcasts a day. These days, we're not live as much as we used to be. It used to be that I was on the traditional green screen and I would be live for sometimes 6 to 8 hours a day on and off. Now, I'll give you a quick little look here at my room. You can see I have a camera, some lighting. I have a background that's kind of clouds and it's not really properly lit. But now I actually do these broadcasts right from this home. You can see I have sound treatment in my office. Oh, I keep killing my light here. And so what I do in a day these days is I will forecast. So normally I'm forecasting in my computers. I'm looking at weather model data. I'm trying to figure out, I've been assigned probably 2 to 3 stories per day around Canada or the US. So maybe I might be assigned where Jesse lives. I'm going to be assigned a big nor'easter storm in Atlantic Canada. So what I'm doing is I'm looking at the weather models. I'm now building graphics with my weather graphics system. And I'm putting that together so that I can tell my story with my graphics. Next thing I might be doing is I could be contributing to an article. So I might be writing text for an article that will end up on the Weather Network app or our Weather Network website. And then later in the day, usually off air, so not live, I will record several different videos that will support that story. And so it's a little different than it used to be in the TV days where you would be live the whole day. Now you might be doing 1 or 2 videos, but actually that will be on our smartphones and go to so many people around Canada and the US.
What a really cool sort of change of the habits of a career. We've never had a question quite like that before, so I really appreciate that, Mr. Shadow's class. We're going to head to Carsonville. Ms. Fisher's class, come on into Michigan and take us away. Hey. Hello. Yeah, you're good.
Hi.
Hi.
What creates tornadoes?
Yes.
Oh, that's an amazing question. So many things come together for a tornado. I'll tell you what you need. You need moisture. You need heat. You need something really important called wind shear, and you need lift. So let's break that down. So we need a hot summer day where air is rising. Let's pretend we're out in the Canadian prairies or we're out in Kansas or Oklahoma. You've got a hot summer day. The sun is working the atmosphere and it's heating up and rising little air parcels start to rise. Now we have a big low pressure system, a big storm with a cold front. So that cold air is going to move into that warm, hot air. And it acts kind of like a bulldozer. It's going to say, hey, get out of the way. And we also need moisture. So let's think about Kansas and Oklahoma. You've got a hot summer day. You've got the Gulf of Mexico. If everyone knows where that is, there's a lot of heat and humidity, moisture that's coming from the Gulf of Mexico. So now we have heat, the Gulf of Mexico moisture, a cold front, and now the most magical ingredient that we need for tornadoes is something called wind shear. So what that means is we need our winds to be coming at different directions as we go up in the atmosphere. So maybe our winds are coming from the south. If I can do it like this, maybe they're coming from the south at the surface. And then our winds are coming from the southwest a little bit higher. And then they're coming from the northwest much higher in the atmosphere. Well, what that allows the thunderstorm to do is start to spin. It starts to rotate. And that is the beginning phase of a potential tornado. If that storm is now spinning, what happens when an ice skater has their arms out, right? They're spinning. And now that ice skater brings their arms in, they go faster, right? We all have seen that. And you go, how did they go so fast on skates? That is something it's the same kind of thing that happens in a tornado. It tightens up the rotation. So the vorticity. So it starts as the whole thunderstorm is spinning, but then it starts to tighten up more and more and more and faster, and poof, you can get a tornado, which of course can grow in size. But that's how it happens. Great question.
That is a great question. That's a very detailed answer. Thank you, Jaclyn. Jeez, I learned stuff from that.
Good.
We're going to take some from our YouTube audience, then we're going to head back to our live classes. We've got about 8 minutes together still, so stick around. Miss Cork's group joining us in Stratford, Ontario, wants to know, do you storm chase only for your job, or do you do it for fun too?
Oh, well, shout out to Stratford. I grew up in Windsor, Ontario, so I know Stratford well, and I know the whole Southern Ontario 401 corridor because I have chased it many times. Of course, we know we get severe weather in extreme Southern Ontario, places like Stratford. Often I'm out now. Of course, I live in British Columbia now. I moved about 4 years ago. We don't get a lot of severe weather here, but sometimes I'll go east of the Rockies into the prairies where we get major hailstorms in Alberta and tornadic storms across Alberta, Saskatchewan, and Manitoba. But to answer your question, most times it's work related. But my husband has been known to be asked to jump in the car with me and go for a storm chase, and he complies. There have been times where we've been in Florida or down in the southern states, and we'll see something go up on satellite, and I say, "Come on!" So he's kind of got the bug too. So it's a bit of both.
It's the best marriage story ever. You know, you're supposed to be on the beach in the nice sunny weather. It's like,
Oh, yeah.
there's a hurricane like 300 miles away. We gotta go. We gotta go.
I've been in situations like that, not with a hurricane, but definitely thunderstorms where he's like, really? Do we need to go? Yeah, we do.
One of my great sadnesses moving from Southern Ontario to Newfoundland is that we get way fewer epic thunderstorms. Like in Toronto in the heat of summer, we get like 10 a summer, and it was glorious.
I'm the same here in the Okanagan Valley. It's boring weather-wise, but it's beautiful in every other way.
We'll take it. Oh, dear. Let's see. Some great questions online. Let's see. Another one related to sort of scary bits of storms. Our class wants to know, have you ever felt panic when chasing a storm? So you're out there, tornado starts coming towards you suddenly. Is it really scary? Have you ever had a situation like that? What's the deal?
Yeah, so I'll go back to the Reno, Oklahoma tornado, which was the one I told you about that was 4.2 kilometers wide or 2.6 miles wide. It was a very scary chase day. And in fact, two prominent storm chasers and scientists actually lost their lives that day. And what happened, and the reason why, is everybody was playing it very safely. It's just that Mother Nature, at the end of the day, is always the one in charge. No matter how safe you can be, there is risk with what we do. And what happened was that particular storm started as a very small tornado and then grew in size so quickly, like literally in a matter of seconds, and then changed directions 3 different times. Normally, we know the storm direction, so we know which way a tornado is moving. So if a tornado is moving like this, we're often on the road going like this. We're getting away from it, but we're watching it, go away from us. In this case, it actually changed directions and went right on the road that we were on. And the problem was there were a lot of storm chasers out that day, so there was a lot of traffic. So I can remember seeing the tornado out my window growing in size. In fact, I didn't even know I was looking at the tornado. I thought I was looking at a wall of rain. That's how large it was, but it was actually the tornado. So it was a scary chase day. And yes, there is always risk, but we try and be as safe as we possibly can.
That's a fantastic answer, Jaclyn. Thank you for that. I want to know, we're at the 38-minute mark. We're going to do our live classes. We're going to try and do a rapid fire round again. Everybody in before we have to go together. But if you want to learn more, you can check out Jaclyn's website, Instagram. She's on Twitter. She's everywhere. So if you want to send in additional questions, you can get them to us at Exploring by the Seat of Your Pants. We'll try and get you some good answers. And this will be on our YouTube channel if you want to rewatch or share with family or friends. But let's do everyone one more time. Phoenix School, coming to you first. Miss Digby, I'm coming to you second because you guys are a little older and you might have to go. So come on in, Salem, and take us away. Everybody's got questions. I know.
Oh,
the problem with 45-minute shows. Hey, guys.
Hi.
My name is Jerry. I'm in first grade. And my question was, how strong can the winds get for a tornado?
Wow, that's a really great question. Very strong. They can be strong enough to actually take down an entire house. If we're looking at an EF5 tornado, there will be nothing left except just the foundation of the home, a concrete pad. So I don't want to say that to scare you. What I say to you is that what is so important when a tornado is coming toward you. If you have a tornado warning, you want to get underground if you have a basement. You want to take shelter. You don't want to go out on your front porch and take your smartphone and start taking photos of it. That is not the right choice because tornadoes are very powerful. So you want to get underground if you have a basement. And if you don't have a basement, to the of your home, like a bathroom. If you have a bathroom or a closet that's in the center part of your home, that is the best spot for you to safely be taking shelter. And I have actually seen some incredible things where tornadoes can do some funny things because where the tornado is, there could be winds over 250 kilometers an hour or 300 kilometers an hour, but it's a very tight little zone. So next to that might be very calm. And I've actually seen, Jesse, the salt and pepper shakers still sitting on the counter, but meanwhile, half of the home has been taken away from a tornado.
Yeah, I've seen this. My grandmother used to live in Markdale, Ontario, and a tornado took out all the trees beside her house. The house was totally fine, every shingle in place.
Isn't it neat? Yeah,
it's neat and wild, and it's a great question. So thanks, man, for that. Miss Bigby's class, come on in Fairfax and take us away. Hey.
Hi, my name is Emily. On average, how long do hurricanes last?
Ooh. Great question. Well, okay, first of all, there's different stages, whether something is a hurricane or just a tropical storm or just a easterly wave over the ocean. So everything starts, well, not every time, but they all have to start over the ocean. Often they start off the west coast of Africa, believe it or not, and they travel across the Atlantic as a little cluster of thunderstorms that just kind of gets organized. And if it does get organized with all the right ingredients like warm ocean water and low wind shear, we don't want wind shear with hurricanes because that will actually tear apart the storm. Not like a tornado, very different. Anyway, if they make it, say, closer to the US or the Gulf of Mexico, they can become a tropical storm with stronger winds and it becomes more organized. And then it may become a hurricane. And so hurricanes over the ocean can last for weeks. I've seen hurricanes spinning out there. We just call them fish storms because they're really not impacting land. But they're impacting fish or sailors or people out at sea. But then often when a hurricane makes landfall, and those are the ones that we're really focused on because those are the ones that can impact people, those usually don't last as long. Usually they make landfall, they dissipate because they interact with land, which is called friction, right? So friction tears up the storm, it messes it all up, and it doesn't have that perfect sort of shape and ability to stay rotating as a hurricane. So they're short-lived usually. But with Hurricane Harvey in 2017, that one stayed as a hurricane as a category 2 for days and dropped a whole bunch of rainfall. So it really depends on the storm.
Yeah. That was fish storm is the new term in the history of Exploring by the Seat of Your Pants. So thank you for that in my day. We're gonna take 3 more questions before we wrap up. Stick around, guys. I want to make sure all our classes are here for a big farewell at the end. But let's head to Mr. Rahim's class first, Mr. Shattuck, and we'll wrap up with Miss Fisher, okay? Hey, guys, welcome in.
Hi, this is Nate.
Can a hurricane storm surge stop a tsunami?
Ooh, if they were fighting each other.
Wow, that would be like the clash. Yeah, that would be like the clash of the worst natural hazards ever, right? No, it certainly couldn't. In fact, a tsunami would enhance a storm surge. So if we have a spinning hurricane, the way to think about a storm surge is it's not just a big, huge wave. A storm surge is just kind of piling up of water on the coast for hours on end because the hurricane might be 50 to 100 miles offshore, but the momentum, the spin of the hurricane is pushing that water onshore. So now imagine an earthquake and a tsunami. It would actually then become the big tsunami wave that would hit shore, and it would actually enhance that storm surge. So cool question.
We need a new term, tsunami-cane. It's like a Sharknado kind of. It'd be something. We'll figure it out. We'll workshop it. Mr. Shattuck, I'm going to head to you guys. Come on in, and then Miss Fisher will wrap up with you in a second. Jaclyn, this has been so much fun. I love it. Hey, Mr. Shattuck.
Me too. Great questions, guys. Hi.
Have you ever seen stuff like purple or red lightning other than the normal kind?
Oh, no, I haven't. I know what you're talking about. There's something called sprites, And those usually happen like way, way up in the atmosphere, and they're red. And I've never seen that myself. And in fact, a lot of my friends have not seen it. It's a pretty rare phenomenon, and that would be really cool to see. I'm very impressed that you know what that is.
Seriously, I was going to say, we do have a program in our history, and it's with your colleague, George Karunas, all about really weird lightning. And it's one of the best programs we've ever done in our history. So you can find that on our YouTube channel. Just type in lightning, and you'll see all sorts of cool sprite pictures. Again, taken not by him. It's hard to get a shot of sprites, and it's
I don't think he's seen it either in his career. It's very rare.
Really, the best of the best storm chasers do not see sprites. Anyway, so check that out. That's a really cool question, man. Thank you for that. Miss Fisher's class, I'm going to bring you in, and then Jaclyn, after we're done with Miss Fisher, I'm just going to ask if there's any last message you want to leave us with, but we'll start with our Michigan crew. Come on in, guys. Hey.
Hi.
You're good.
Can flash floods bring sea animals out of the sea?
Ooh.
What a great question. Yes, flash floods can bring sea animals out of the sea. I have seen and heard of those stories where fish, unfortunately, sometimes will end up on pavement because the water has brought in that marine life. Yes, that actually does happen. I've even heard of water spouts. If anyone knows what a water spout is, that's kind of like, well, it is a tornado over the water. It's a circulation, and you've seen them over the ocean. I've actually heard of stories where it picks up fish, and fish end up on land from a water spout. So unfortunately, the fish end up dying, but it does happen.
Yep, the birds are super happy when that happens. That when fish literally come raining down, that would be amazing for them. So there you go.
They would be happy about that.
Jaclyn, before we bring in all our classes for a big thank you and farewell, is there anything else that we can share with kids to keep the excitement on storm chasing and meteorology and your career going? I'll bring up a few links as you chat, but anything you want to leave us with today?
Well, first of all, I thank everyone for their time and your attention and your amazing questions. You guys have been awesome. Please do reach out to my Instagram account or go to my website. You can ask some further questions via email, anything like that. I'd love to hear from you. But I want to say that don't be afraid of active weather. Don't be afraid of tornadoes. Don't be afraid of hurricanes. These are all things that are naturally occurring on Earth. And we need these storms for many reasons. A lot of areas depend on rainfall from a hurricane or a severe thunderstorm, like farmers. But what I want you do need to be afraid when you've been told to evacuate or when you've been told to take shelter. That is the time to be afraid. You want to make sure you listen to those messages. When you get a tornado warning on your phone, take it seriously, because it might sound really fun, but storm chasers do this for a living. We're professionals. Now, if you ever want to be a storm chaser in your life, I highly encourage you to continue with your geography and your science and your math. And you can maybe do this one day too. So it's a pretty cool job. And yeah, I just want to say, keep dreaming big, and remember, anything that is good always happens on the other side of fear, right? So test yourself. Yeah.
Jaclyn, this was so much fun. I'm going to bring in all our classes to say a big thank you and farewell. So Mr. Rahim, Mr. Shad's class, Miss Fisher's class, our Phoenix School friends, the Digby's class, thank you so much, everybody. Have a wonderful day. Bye for now, guys. We'll see you.